Praise be to Jesus. Hi again, everyone. Charles with you here, and we have some more news briefs for you. Before I start right now, I really, know that the volume is low, and my voice actually sounds tinny. Um, and I really tried a lot of different ways of trying to fix this, and I've come to the conclusion that the headset really isn't really working as well as it did when I first got it a couple of years ago. Of course, it's been dropped a couple of times and whatever. But I'll be getting a new one, but I can't do that until next Monday. Um, I have to wait till then in order to get my Social Security money because I want to buy a good one. Uh, as far as I'm concerned, I sound bad enough without the headset making me sound even worse. So, in the meantime, just please be patient and I'll do the best I can with this. I've been sort of experimenting, but if I get the microphone too close to my mouth, I sound a lot louder, but then you hear me like, breathing and I think what I'm doing right now is about the best I'm going to do with this particular headset. So let's begin our news here this morning. From the Facebook feed of Christine Niles of Church Militant. Chicago Archdiocese is lying, saying Father Kalchik has been removed and is receiving pastoral care. We've been in direct contact with Father Kalchik, who confirmed that he was forced to go into hiding after Cardinal Kuprich's enforcers threatened him. Multiple staff witnessed the confrontation. CNA simply parrots the Archdiocese disinformation, establishment Catholic media at its finest. So the enforcers, for those of you who aren't really following this or haven't heard much about it, the enforcers were two um, priests from the archdiocese who are vicars for priests. So there was some interaction there that doesn't really match up between what Church Militant is saying and the Catholic News Agency. So, mainstream Catholic media just prints what a archdiocese or what a cardinal or bishop would say, unless they don't really care for it. I mean, they're not really investigative reporters. So, I mean, I tend to believe what Church Militant is saying in this story. Um, so, we'll see what happens here. I personally think that he's just going to sort of disappear like another priest did just a few months ago. A priest who would have Latin Mass and, you know, um, Cardinal Kupich just wants to get rid of any and all traditional priests, and he'll find any excuse he can. So this whole thing about sending him for psychiatric evaluation, could very. I mean, I think that's what he wanted to do, and the priest, I believe, has disappeared for the time being. So we'll see what happens in the future. Another bishop has directed his priests to recite the prayer to St. Michael the Archangel after every Mass for the protection of the Church amidst of the abuse crisis. Archbishop Alexander King Sample of the Archdiocese of Portland sent a letter to his priests last week encouraging them to lead the prayer to St. Michael the Archangel after all Masses. It was the universal custom of the Latin Church to pray this prayer from 1886 until the liturgical revolution of the late 1960s. Pope Francis acknowledged Tuesday that his landmark deal with China over bishop nominations will cause suffering among the underground faithful. But he said that he takes full responsibility and that he, and not Beijing, will have the ultimate say over naming new bishops. Well, from what I understand, he has like veto power. But how all this is going to play out, and what's going to happen behind the scenes and whatever. I mean, we really don't know. I mean, these are just words, that it just depends on how they're applied, and you know, um, but he's the one who's going to have the final say of whether he accepts it or not. So, there'll probably be some jostling back and forth. I mean, we do know that he did accept back into the church. I think there were like seven bishops and cardinals that were um, removed in some sort of way. Um, and you know, I guess their way or thinking, whatever, was too far away from the church. But now they've been accepted back, so I don't really see that as a good sign. And anyway, this is like a communist state. I mean, they're not going to allow religion to, have. They don't want religion to be a big force in their country. I mean, the whole thing about elevating God above, themselves and the communist state. I mean, it just doesn't fly with them. So, it just is what it is. A U.S. bankruptcy court judge has approved a reorganization plan for the Archdiocese of St. Paul and Minneapolis that will compensate victims of clergy sex abuse. Judge Robert Kressel approved the $210 million settlement Tuesday. Hundreds of victims voted overwhelmingly in favor of the plan. The Archdiocese filed for bankruptcy in 2015, 2 years after the Minnesota legislature opened a 3-year window that allowed people who had been sexually abused in the past to sue for damages. So, now this is going on in Pennsylvania. Well, it's gotten through the state house, and it's got to go to the Senate where it's unsure about what will happen. But they're thinking about opening up a 2-year window. And I think I mentioned yesterday that, if you have, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of people coming forward looking for financial compensation, that they hadn't received before, it could, cause a lot of financial problems. So, I mean, I could see where, the secular part of America wants to bankrupt the Catholic Church, and this is one way to go about it. That's for sure. One of ex-Cardinal Theodore McCarrick's former closest collaborators and one of the U.S. Church's leading crusaders for sex abuse reform is calling on Pope Francis to break his silence about what the Vatican knew about the previous Archbishop of Washington's history of abuse. In the hope of ending the silence and secrecy surrounding the Church's handling of abuse, John Carr, who served for 2 decades as the Capitol Hill point man for the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, also revealed that he was abused by priests while in high school seminary. Hmm. Well, there's just one other thing that I want to mention is on the plane back to Rome from his trip here these last few days. Um, there was an in-flight news conference, and the Pope refused to entertain any questions about Archbishop Vigano's statements. So he just shut that down, and he said that please. I guess he said, please keep your questions relevant to my trip. So I thought I'd just tell you that. So we're not going to find out anything from his mouth anytime soon, I don't think. Okay, well, that's your news summary for right now, and we'll probably talk to you later in the day. Enjoy your day or evening. Bye.